This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic. It is Tuesday, and that means it's Build a Deck Tuesday, and we are going to continue building our Enchantments Matter EDH deck with our general Sisay Weatherlight Captain. Fans of MTG Burgeoning, what's up? We are here. We are building around Sisay Weatherlight Captain Enchantments Matter. If you missed any of the previous deck building episodes of this series, you can click on the links in the description below to bring you right up to speed. We are going to take a very brief look at the cards that we've already included in this deck before we install our ramp and removal. And here they are. Enlightened Tutor, Sterling Grove, Plea for Guidance, Citizen Champion, Eidolon of Blossoms, Greater Auramancy, Sphere of Safety, Gen Arcanum Weaver, Hannah Ship's Navigator, Zur the Enchanter, Calyx Destiny's Hand, Dance of the Dance, Honden of Cleansing Fire, Honden of Seeing Winds, Honden of Night's Reach, Honden of Infinite Rage, Honden of Life's Web, Sanctum of Tranquil Light, Sanctum of Calm Waters, Sanctum of Stone Fangs, Sanctum of Shattered Heights, Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest, Sanctum of All, Heliod, God of the Sun, Thassa, God of the Sea, Erebus, God of the Dead, Perforos, God of the Forge, Nylea, God of the Hunt, Ephara, God of the Polis, Mogus, God of Slaughter, Karametra, God of Harvests, Iroas, God of Victory, Pharika, God of Affliction, Heliod, Sun-Crowned, Thassa, Deep Dwelling, Perforos, Bronze-Blooded, Nylea, Keen-Eyed, Helm of the Gods, All That Glitters, Paradox Haze, Enigmatic Incarnation, Archon of Sun's Grace, Sigil of the Empty Throne, and Champion's Helm. Those are the cards that have been installed so far. This is the absolute core of our deck, and in today's video, as aforementioned, we're going to install our ramp, our removal, and then next time we'll move to the land-based installation. And then that's going to be another completed deck, folks. We are building around Sisay Weatherlight Captain. So let's go to ramp. All right, first ramp spell should not be a surprise. It's the best artifact in the format, most played card. It is Soul Ring. Number 2 should not come as much as a surprise. It is Arcane Signet, one of the most played cards in the EDH format. It will, for the purposes of this deck, it will tap to add 1 color of any mana to our mana pool. Next card to be played may be a bit of a surprise, but let's examine it a little further to see why it shouldn't be. A copy of Altar of the Pantheon. For 3, our devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. If you reflect back at the number of the Theros gods that we have, where devotion is important, either keeping them as enchantments or creatures that can lead us to victory, Altar of the Pantheon will make that devotion a little bit easier to reach with it being in play. Plus, it acts as a mana rock by tapping to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. And we're playing 5 colors, so that's going to be very, very favorable. In addition, if we control a god, a demigod, there are no demigods in this deck, they're just going to be gods, or a legendary enchantment, we will gain 1 life. So this gives us some incidental life gain on top of helping to fix our mana and increase our devotion. Altar of the Pantheon is going to be a sneaky, sneaky good card in this deck. All right, piece of ramp number 4. We're going to include a copy of Crop Rotation. It's an instant. We tap a green, we sacrifice a land when we cast Crop Rotation, and we search our library for a land card and put that land into play. This is not so much to help fix the colors in a 5-color deck. it will be beneficial to do that if needed. However, I have other plans for the inclusion of crop rotation, and we'll see that during the next video when we install the land base for Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. So maybe just throw an asterisk on crop rotation for now, and we'll come back to why including that is going to be such a good move for this deck. Ramp spell number 5. Jeez, we're moving back in time. I'm still stuck on the altar, folks. All right, ramp spell number 5. We are going to include a copy of Feyburrow Elder. 1 green and a white. It has vigilance. It gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents we control. And we can tap it and we can add 1 mana of any... let me say that again. We can tap Feyburrow Elder, and for each color among permanents we control, we add 1 mana of that color. So at its basement, at its floor, Feyburrow Elder is a 2/2 with vigilance that can tap for a white and a green, and it only costs 1 green and a white. I cannot understand why this card is not played more. I do not understand why it's not more valuable. I don't know why it's not more popular. But that's fine. I will keep that as secretive as possible and then slowly just collect as many low-valued copies as I possibly can, because Feyburrow Elder just by itself is an amazing card. Included in a 5-color deck, we could easily tap this for 1 mana of every color. And if we do, as we slowly pull Feyburrow Elder down, exposing our general, we're able to activate Sisay's ability if she's on the battlefield. Feyburrow Elder is a slam dunk inclusion in this deck. All right, ramp spell number 6. Straight and simple. 1 copy of Skyshroud Claim. 3 and a green. Search our library for up to 2 forest cards and put them onto the battlefield. For the purposes of spoilers, I can foresee an early turn Skyshroud Claim resulting in most likely a couple of tapped Triomes hitting our battlefield, and then maybe mid to late game they turn into some shock lands that if needed we can pay 2 life and have them come into play untapped. All right, and our last piece of ramp for this edition is going to be Jegantha the Wellspring. For 4 and a hybrid Gruul mana. It's a 5/5 legendary elk. We don't need to worry about its companion ability because we can't play with it as a companion. This is EDH. So we can tap Jegantha, and Jegantha will add white, blue, black, red, green. And we can use this mana only to cast... I'm sorry. I gotta stop getting ahead of myself. Tap for a white, blue, black, red, green, and this mana can't be spent to pay generic mana costs. So similar to when we slowly pulled down the Feyburrow Elder, we're going to slowly pull down Jegantha, exposing Sisay's ability up there of white, blue, black, red, green, and by tapping Jegantha we can activate Sisay's ability. And if these 2 are the only 2 permanents on our battlefield, well, Sisay is going to allow us to search our library for a permanent of 4 converted mana cost because her power and toughness will be 4/4. So Jegantha is a great inclusion, and I look forward to working with the pair of it and Sisay. All right, so let's install our removal. So 5-color removal, we want to try to maximize the number of spells that we put into this deck of direct removal that can deal with any permanent possible. And that should be now no surprise that 1 copy of Beast Within is going to be included. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. If you've been in the Commander format long enough, you know that that's more than a fair trade-off for us. Beast Within, so good, it was printed in another color and given a different name, Generous Gift. The destruction of a permanent is the same. The gift of the token creature is slightly different. Instead of it being a 3/3 beast, it's a 3/3 elephant. Still, 1 copy of Beast Within and 1 copy of Generous Gift. Next up, moving away from the instant removal, focusing a little bit on our enchantment removal that we'll be able to reuse if needed. Oblivion Ring. 2 and a white. When O-Ring enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. When Oblivion Ring leaves the battlefield, return the exile card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So if you notice that the Oblivion Ring rules text is separated there, we can take full advantage of that by exiling something permanently. It will be a little costly for us to do so. What we would need to do is cast Oblivion Ring. As it enters the battlefield, we exile the target non-land permanent. With that on the stack, we activate an ability or we cast an instant spell such as Beast Within or Generous Gift, destroying the Oblivion Ring. Then when the stack, when the abilities come off of the stack, the thing that gets exiled stays exiled. So that's a way in which we can dance around something if needed. Again, that's resource and mana intensive, but it's still an option available to us. 1 copy of Oblivion Ring, 1 copy of Banishing Light. 2 and a white. When Banishing Light enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. Make no mistake about it, folks. This was Wizards' attempt to fix the errata of Oblivion Ring. Banishing Light does not allow us to do what Oblivion Ring does, but it's still valuable enough to include, particularly because it's an enchantment and it helps out with our Enchantments Matter build. All right, we're going to go to Odyssey for this next form of quote-unquote removal, and that's going to be 1 copy of Karmic Justice. Whenever a spell or ability an opponent controls destroys a non-creature permanent we control, most likely one of our enchantments, we may destroy target permanent that opponent controls. 2 and a white enchantment. This card is mean, and the fact that it's an enchantment, and let's be honest, enchantment removal is one of the weaker form of removals in the format. That's why I believe that this deck is going to be a very, very successful deck at the EDH table. This card is ridiculously mean, even if our opponents decide to cast something to destroy our Karmic Justice. Well, guess what? They're going to have one of their permanents destroyed as a way in which to say thank you for sending Karmic Justice to the graveyard, but we're going to get it back because we have so many ways to do so. So, Karmic Justice, sneaky good card to add in this deck. Very straightforward here. 1 copy, Day of Judgment, 2 and 2 white, destroy all creatures. Noticing that our deck is creature light, not so much if we are including our enchantment creatures from the Theros blocks. However, they all have devotion, which may not always be met, so they're not always going to be creatures, and even if they are, they're indestructible. So us carrying a Day of Judgment in our deck to potentially cast out during a game most likely will not hurt us as much as it will hurt our opponents. All right, moving on now to some other board wipes similar to Day of Judgment, a little more mana intensive and, let's say, face it, a lot more powerful. Ruinous Ultimatum, 2 red, 3 white, 2 black. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Just vicious. Nothing of our board is touched, and everything except for lands are gone from our opponents. Staying on theme with a board wipe that affects our opponents a lot more than it will affect us, we are going to include a copy of Obliterate. 6 and 2 red, and this is going back to Invasion time. Obliterate can't be countered. We destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They can't be regenerated. Notice it does not say enchantments, so all of our enchantments will be just fine. However, I do have to point out we will need to be careful here because it doesn't say anything about planeswalkers, because this spell predates the existence of planeswalkers. So we got to be real careful that we don't have any planeswalkers in play that we think will be a problem when we cast Obliterate, because that is not going to remove them from the battlefield. All right, last card to be added in our rampant removal, our last spell. And it should be a card that is a win condition for us. It most certainly should, and should only be cast like it is. And we're going to lower win, and that is going to be 1 copy of Decree of Annihilation. For 8 and 2 red, exile all artifacts, creatures, lands, graveyards and hands from the game. We need to be careful that our enchantment gods are not creatures, because Decree of Annihilation will remove them. So if we have a couple of our gods out in place, like Mogus, God of Slaughter, and some of the gods that can help us to wither our opponent's life down, in particularly if we also include some, if not all, of the shrines that we could get in play, casting Decree of Annihilation, getting rid of everything but the enchantments, that should be enough to win us the game. Again, a lot of what we said about Obliterate can be applied here to Decree of Annihilation. This doesn't touch Planeswalkers, so just be careful. And that is it, folks. The spells are complete in our Enchantments Matter Sisay Weatherlight Captain EDH build. All that's left is the installation of the land base. What lands would you like to see? Leave me a message in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.